Hey, it's Sue. Today I'm drawing another one of mine and my sister's Rise of the TMNT OCs. Her name is Samantha. I hope you'll come along with me in this process. I had a lot of fun making it and a lot of trouble. Let's get right into it. So I'm actually filming the sketching process this time. I haven't been able to do it the last 2 times as I've either been out of the house drawing or I have drawn it in advance before I was making the videos and just used it for the video. But next to it you can see a drawing I also did at my church the same day I was drawing the sketch for Heather in the last video. I did it with my Poscas. I really like the way it turned out, but that is not why we're in the sketchbook today. Today we are here to draw Samantha. She is often referred to as Sammy. I really like her design. She was the first one that I made up a design for. She is 15 and she was created to ship with Michelangelo. I think they are probably one of the cutest ships. It's not for them, it's more focused on the romance. Or no, not the romance. Whoops, I'm sorry, I mean the friendship. But they do have a romance involved and I think they're very, very, very cute. They're probably one of the cutest ships, but though Raph and Jane are probably the cutest. Shh. You will get to see Jane next as she's the last character I have to draw a character sheet for. I had a lot of trouble doing this. I drew her looking a little too young here since she is supposed to be 15. And I had a lot of times where I had to use the liquify tool when I transferred over to digital because I just wasn't happy with the way it was turning out. I think I had a little bit of art block showing through since I have had it the last couple of days, but I do think it's almost gone, and I probably will be making a video on how to overcome it since I have to do that a lot lately, and I've just gotten really good at it. So here you can see me putting the markings on her. I had to go get my sister's tablet and figure out what the other one looked like because I had forgotten. You'd think I'd know my own character's designs, but I really don't. I've only had this character for about 3 months, so it makes sense. Oh, and here's where I put in those very creepy eyes. They don't look that bad right now, but I tried to tweak them, and that's where it got kind of creepy looking. So I just erased them and started over. Thankfully, I had Heather right next to me to see how I normally draw their eyes, and then it turned out pretty good. And then we did the classic never looking at the camera kind of thing. I just find whenever I make them look at the camera, they look kind of creepy. The mouth did make her look kind of creepy in this picture, but I fixed that later. I've gotten into the habit of putting drop shadows under my characters in my sketchbook. I just think it looks cool, and I really enjoy doing it. For me and Star, Samantha does have a very differing backstory just because I thought Star's was really sad and I wanted Sammy to be the trauma-free baby, so instead of changing or having Star change the backstory, I changed it. It isn't that different. I just simply made a new way she met her family. She was raised by 3 opossums. So she had a very different childhood. The possums, though, are very, very funny. We have Monty, Bramble, and Everkiss. Everkiss is like the leader of the 3. He is like a wannabe wizard, basically. And he's very, very, very funny. Then we have Monty, who, if you've ever watched Emperor's New Groove and seen Kronk, he's kind of like that, just does whatever Everkiss does, and sees him as a very big role model. And then Bramble, she is a little more cautious, but also goes along with basically whatever Everkiss does, though she has a little bit more sense than Monty. Because she was raised by possums, sometimes she thinks she can just play dead to get out of sticky situations, though she eventually learned that doesn't work. She doesn't really know how to fight because she was never trained in that way since the possums were never really prone to violence, which makes sense since they are possums and they just play dead if you were to startle them or put them in a life-threatening situation. So as you can see, I've moved on to the line art. Sammy has these really cute flowers on the side of her mask and these really swishy things. Normally, if you think about Gravity, they wouldn't be like that, but I really enjoy drawing the swishy things, so they stay as the swishy things and not the limp, weird ribbons tied from her flowers. The flowers are not real, but they just look really cute on her mask, and she's always loved flowers, so I thought it was a cute touch. Here is where I realized she was a little too short, and I wanted to make her bigger, so after adjusting a few things and adding the second flower, and arms, I fixed that. I did play around with the arms a lot. I thought they were too short, and then I made them longer. Then I thought they were too long, so I made them a little shorter. And then I had to make them a little longer, I believe, when I made her taller, because, well, they just looked too short then. This picture gave me a lot of trouble. I don't know what it was, but it just was always not looking quite how I wanted it. And when I moved on to the colors, they gave me a lot of trouble because I kept thinking, these don't look right. But I'd select them directly off of a picture I did of her, so they should have been right. And for some reason, they just felt wrong, but then I compared it to the actual picture and it looked right. So I really don't know what was wrong. I just got something in my head where I thought this is not right, even though it was. So I do really like how this turned out though. I guess sometimes you just have to go through a long process of editing things and making really weird squiggly lines for shorts on your characters before you actually get something you like. I did this. This is like a lace mesh kind of thing. I don't know what you would call it. I almost forgot to add her shell in. I'm really glad I remembered. I did move the shorts up because I felt they were a little too long. Again, editing more things with the liquify tool because it just didn't seem quite right. And I believe then I moved on to adding the lines for the text and then the weapons. Now, just because I said she didn't grow up learning how to fight doesn't mean she didn't learn how to later in the story. You'll figure out why and how when you read the comic, if you do. But she does have the same weapons as Leo. That was actually intentional. Oh, no, wait, no, it wasn't. Well, what happened was we were making her weapons, and that was before we had finished the show and realized he'd gotten 2 swords. So we knew he did have a sword, and we thought we weren't copying because it was, 2. And then we realized he got 2, but we didn't bother changing it because of how she learns to fight and all that jazz. So it didn't really matter. We did end up accidentally giving Jane at first the same weapon as Raph because we didn't realize he had the same one as her until we watched the end of the show. And then we ended up changing it so there wouldn't be so many. Also, if the shell pattern annoys you, I fix it later, I promise. It annoys me too. But here, I believe I moved on to the text. Like I said, her name is Samantha. Her nicknames are Sammy and Sunny. She is 15. She is she's a bubbly and energetic girl who can be kind of loud sometimes. She loves to craft and play the flute. She is skilled at skateboarding and is always trying to make friends. She can be annoying sometimes, though she's not trying to. I feel like the only one who doesn't find her annoying most of the time is Mikey, just because he bonds with her so well. Anyway, she likes comedy books and comics. Along with, what does that say? Oh, suns and sunflowers. I can't read my own writing, even though it's not my writing. Oh, and tacos. I could not remember her dislikes. I had to ask Star, but she could not remember them either, and we had not written them down, so she had to just come up with them off the top of her head. So we got Rain being alone or being looked down upon because she's shorter. She finds that really annoying. She is a common box shell turtle, which is not exactly like Mikey, since Mikey's an ornate box shell turtle, but they're very similar. Okay, here I moved on to the colors. The mask and sword colors was actually wrong. I lightened it up and then it was right, but everything else just seemed wrong for some reason, even though it is actually right. I don't know what it was. It just seemed really like neoner, I guess, not pastel, like brighter and like just off. Maybe it was because I had painted her recently and the colors weren't exact and I had gotten used to that, or because when drawing the comic it's not like fully colored. It has some color but not full. I wasn't used to seeing her in full color, but either way it didn't look quite right. I knew her plash drawing was right, but the mask was the exact same color, and that's how I knew that wasn't right. If I hadn't seen it next to the plash drawing, I probably would have thought it was right. Yeah, but here's where I lightened it up, and now it looks a lot more like her actual color. When drawing in the shell, I had done it on the sketch on the same layer as the line art for the swords. So when I lowered the opacity, it also lowered the opacity of the line art on the weapons. And then when I merged the layers, it didn't change that, and I had forgotten to raise the opacity back up after I erased the sketch. So the line art was slightly grayish on the weapons. I did not bother to go back and fix it since you couldn't really see it after I did the colors. But if you turn them off, you can definitely tell. So here I fixed the pattern on the shell because it just, was really annoying me. I did have some trouble making it look similar to the other side, but I eventually got it. I do like her new pattern for the shell. Of course, you wouldn't know, but she did have a sunflower on the back of her shell before, but I felt like that was a little too perfect, and too, like, coincidental that she ends up really liking sunflowers, and her shell has that pattern on the back of it. So I changed it with the help of Star, who actually came up with the design. Star is not an artist. She is a really good writer though, and does come up with some good designs sometimes. Here I really felt like the colors were off, so I was adjusting the color balance, though it didn't end up changing it much, just slightly made it purpley. It still looks like her colors, but after that I felt like it was more like her colors for some reason, even though it wasn't quite right anymore. And I went in for the shading. I never ended up adjusting them again since they looked really, really close. But they aren't quite right. I probably need to fix that. But I'm lazy, so I probably won't end up doing it. So I did exactly what I did for Heather and May's character sheet and just added a black and then lowered the opacity. I did not add shading to the weapons, but I did do it on the shell. I was feeling a little lazy. I had been filming this on and off for the entire day, and after I added my signature, I was just so done with it that I didn't bother fixing anything else. So here is the finished product. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you'd like to see more of this, consider liking and subscribing, and I will come out with Jane's character sheet soon. Bye!